The automatic doors slid open, and Fela stepped inside with her heart steady but every nerve alert. There he stood, Simon, awkwardly in the living room, a man trying to reclaim what he had lost, months of betrayal, manipulation, and lies having led to this moment. Fela's parents watched silently, guardians of her strength and witnesses to the storm about to unfold. Simon began with apologies, excuses spilling from his lips as his eyes searched for a spark of forgiveness. Fela listened, unwavering, her posture radiating control and quiet fury. She spoke slowly, deliberately, recounting every betrayal, every stolen opportunity, every moment she had been used and underestimated. Her words were precise, slicing through his attempts to rationalize his actions. There would be no reconciliation, no turning back the clock. Simon realized too late that the woman before him was unshakable, forged in fire, and fully aware of her power. Fela asserted her boundaries, demanded accountability, and laid out the consequences of any future encroachment. The room was tense, thick with the weight of years of emotion and confrontation. Finally, the encounter ended, Simon humbled and defeated, while Fela stood tall, victorious, not with vengeance, but with mastery over her own life. The moment marked closure, transformation, and the undeniable emergence of a woman who had turned betrayal into empowerment, proving that the most decisive battles are fought within and won with unwavering self-respect. Fela Kumalo sat alone in the quiet apartment that had once been their shared sanctuary. Her hands rested on the edge of the kitchen counter, as if bracing herself against some invisible force. The memories pressed against her mind like a relentless tide, and every detail of that afternoon replayed in excruciating clarity. The mall's automatic doors had opened. There they were, Simon Drake and Isabella Lane, entangled in a moment that was not hers to witness. A sudden cold swept over her body. Still, she held herself upright, the kind of uprightness that came from years of carrying responsibilities for others, and now demanded that she carry herself for herself. She remembered the early mornings in Simon's office, the way she had carefully reviewed financial statements long before anyone else in the company noticed discrepancies or opportunities. The countless sacrifices made to ensure stability, the personal savings depleted, the heirlooms sold, the car that gleamed in the driveway, all offered with the hope that loyalty and love could be enough. Fela had given everything, and now the sting of betrayal cut sharper than any financial loss could. Her phone lay face down on the marble counter, as if it too sensed the gravity of the moment. She felt a compulsion to fling it across the room. Still, a deeper voice within her urged restraint. The lawyer's number rested in the contacts. She picked it up, her thumb hovering over the screen, and then let out a long, deliberate breath. The moment was too precious to waste on hysteria. There were documents to be signed, legal channels to be pursued, a clear path to reclaiming what she had invested her energy and heart into for years. The apartment felt unusually cold that day. The sunlight entering through the windows did little to soften the sharp edges of her thoughts. Fela moved to the living room and touched the small quilt that had belonged to her grandmother. Its fibers worn, but resilient. The quilt seemed to whisper reminders of her own strength, of the generations of women who had endured hardship and emerged with dignity. This was not the first time life had demanded courage, and it would not be the last. She knelt and traced the stitching, allowing herself a moment of silent prayer, not for forgiveness, but for clarity, for the unwavering resolve she knew she would need. Fela remembered the first time she had confronted Simon about his late nights and unexplained absences. She had done so quietly, patiently, hoping for an explanation that would maintain the equilibrium of their life together. But each answer had only drifted further from the truth. She realized now that her patience had been mistaken for weakness and that her trust had been treated as an open door to be exploited. Her reflection in the mirror was sharp and clear. The woman who stared back at her carried no tears in her eyes, despite the pain that throbbed in her chest. It was a study in composed determination, the subtle acknowledgement that her life and her choices were entirely her own. She moved to her office desk, stacked with files detailing months of research on clients and contracts that she had personally cultivated. The documents represented more than work. They were evidence of her expertise, of the skill she had honed, and of the tangible proof that her value extended far beyond the title of wife or partner. She opened her laptop and drafted a preliminary email to her lawyer. The words were precise and controlled, a declaration of intent to separate her life from Simon's without resorting to dramatics. Her message outlined the transfer of shared assets, the protection of intellectual property, and the immediate revocation of financial privileges. She typed with the clarity that comes from necessity and the quiet fury of someone wronged. Outside the window, the city pulsed with life, unaware of the private storm unfolding within Fela's apartment. She watched the movement of pedestrians and cars, each oblivious to the personal battles taking place in the buildings around them. A strange comfort settled over her, knowing that the world continued even when trust was shattered. That constancy would be her ally. She would not allow the betrayal to define her existence or diminish the legacy she was determined to maintain. Fela remembered the countless nights spent comforting Simon during moments of stress, guiding him through strategic decisions, providing insights that often went unacknowledged. Her contributions had been both invisible and indispensable. She had facilitated connections, secured contracts, and smoothed the rough edges of business negotiations, all while maintaining the delicate balance of domestic life. Now she understood that much of her labor had been a bridge for someone who never intended to cross the exact distances for her. She recalled the moment she had realized the depth of the deception. She had discovered inconsistencies in financial statements, minor at first and dismissed them as errors, yet persistent enough to nag at her instincts. Then came the whispers from colleagues, casual mentions that something was off, the careful avoidance of specific topics in meetings, and a sudden reticence in conversation. All the signals had been present, yet her heart had refused to accept them, as it saw only the version of reality she wanted to believe. The mall incident had been the undeniable culmination of the moment in which the hidden truth became starkly visible. Her mind traced the sequence of steps she needed to reclaim control. She drafted a list, methodically listing priorities, separating emotional needs from strategic actions. Term 1. Regain full access to financial accounts. Term 2. Secure legal representation. Term 3. Consolidate assets. Term 4. Protect intellectual property. Term 5. Maintain personal well-being. Term 6. Evaluate business prospects independently. Each item, a tangible foothold against the chaos that Simon had wrought by his betrayal. Fela moved to the bedroom where her personal effects were arranged with care, clothes folded neatly, shoes aligned. She felt the need for order as a form of psychological armor. In each object, she saw fragments of a life curated with intention. Her gaze lingered on a photograph of her grandmother, smiling broadly, her hands clasped around a teacup. The image reminded Fela that resilience was not abstract, but inherited, a living trait that ran through the women in her family. The tears finally came, but softly rolling down her cheeks in quiet acknowledgement of loss rather than collapse. She rinsed her face and straightened her posture. The act itself was symbolic, reclaiming dignity through the simplest gestures of self-care. The reflection in the mirror was no longer a shocked or betrayed woman, but one who was gathering strength with deliberate intent. Fela prepared herself for the conversations ahead with Simon. The confrontation would be controlled, precise, informed. She would not be baited by apology nor swayed by remorse. Her strategy included the use of precise documentation, evidence of the betrayal, and clear communication of her expectations. Her lawyer would assist in ensuring compliance and protection of her rights. There was no room for indecision in this phase, only calculated action. By evening, she sat by the window, sipping tea, the city lights twinkling below like fragments of hope scattered across darkness. She considered the irony of her position, the immense power she had invested in someone who chose deception. Yet in that very moment, she realized that the power had never left her. She had only misplaced its direction. It was now firmly in her hands once again. As night deepened, Fela drafted a letter, not for Simon but for herself, an affirmation of intent, a manifesto of personal sovereignty. She wrote about courage, not in the absence of fear, but in the conscious choice to act despite it. About reclaiming what was rightfully hers, both tangible and intangible. About defining life on her own terms, guided by intelligence, resilience, and unyielding self-respect. The act of writing crystallized her resolve, giving form to what had, until now, been a formless determination. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional distant car. She allowed herself one last moment of reflection, acknowledging that the journey ahead would be challenging, yet also filled with opportunity. She had learned that betrayal was not a conclusion, but a catalyst, and that from this fracture could emerge a structure stronger than what had existed before. Finally, she placed the letter into an envelope addressed to her lawyer, closed her laptop, and stood facing the city skyline. The air felt crisp and alive, as if acknowledging her renewed purpose. Fela Kumalo knew that this was the beginning, not the end of a new chapter. Her wounds had been deep, but not defining. She carried forward, not with vengeance, but with clarity, with purpose, and with the unwavering conviction that her life belonged solely to herself. The night settled around her, the hum of life continuing unabated outside her window. Fela took a deep breath and whispered her own quiet vow that no one would ever dictate the terms of her existence again. Her own resolve illuminated the path, and as she turned away from the window, she carried within her the knowledge that this was only the first step toward the life she was destined to reclaim and to build anew. Fela Kumalo stepped back instinctively as the automatic doors of the upscale boutique slid open. She froze for a moment, her heart tightening as she saw Simon Drake, her husband, embracing Isabella Reed. The image was stark and undeniable. Her mind raced, processing betrayal, disbelief, and a growing surge of anger that she had learned to manage over the years. Fela's hands tightened around her purse, but her voice remained steady as she addressed Simon with clarity and authority. She reminded him that she was his wife, the one who had built a life with him, and that his choices would soon have consequences. Without hesitation, she decided to lock the joint bank accounts, a step that symbolized reclaiming control and autonomy over her life and finances. The world around her felt muted as Fela walked out of the boutique. The bright lights of the shopping center seemed distant as she processed the intensity of what she had witnessed. She felt an emotional storm brewing, a mixture of grief and rage, tempered by the resolve she had cultivated through years of navigating personal and professional challenges. Her mind cycled through the sacrifices she had made, the trust she had placed in Simon, and the reality that he had chosen to betray her. Every memory of loyalty and support felt both sacred and violated. Fela understood that this moment marked a turning point, the beginning of a journey toward reclaiming her identity and agency. Fela returned to her apartment, the familiar environment offering a sense of refuge and a space to process her emotions. She took a deep breath and allowed herself a moment of vulnerability, tears streaming silently as she confronted the depth of her pain. But she also recognized the need to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. She retrieved her laptop and began drafting an email to a trusted attorney, outlining the steps required to initiate divorce proceedings and protect her financial and legal interests. This act of planning was an assertion of power, a means to transform emotional turmoil into a tangible strategy. She paused, looking around the apartment that had once symbolized shared dreams and accomplishments. The memories were bittersweet, but they also served as a reminder of her resilience. Fela had navigated challenges before and emerged stronger each time. She realized that the betrayal was not merely about infidelity. It was a reflection of deeper patterns of exploitation that she had allowed to continue in her trust of Simon. This clarity intensified her determination to reclaim autonomy, define her own path, and ensure that her contributions, both financial and emotional, were respected and protected. Fela spent the next hours gathering evidence, reviewing bank statements, joint assets, and legal documents. She was meticulous, ensuring that every step she took was grounded in fact and defensible in court if necessary. The process was both exhausting and empowering. Each piece of documentation she collected symbolized her assertion of control and her refusal to be diminished by betrayal. She understood that reclaiming power required precision, discipline, and a clear understanding of the legal and financial frameworks that governed her life. During this time, Fela reflected on her past sacrifices, the moments when she had placed Simon's needs above her own, and the ways she had supported his career and personal ambitions. She acknowledged the love and effort she had invested, while simultaneously recognizing the imbalance and exploitation inherent in the relationship. This awareness fueled a profound sense of awakening. Fela realized that true empowerment would require not only legal action, but also emotional recalibration and the deliberate cultivation of self-respect and independence. In the evening, she allowed herself a quiet moment of meditation and reflection. Fela focused on her breath, grounding herself in the present and acknowledging the emotions that surged through her. She visualized a future where her autonomy and accomplishments were unassailable, where betrayal could no longer define her narrative, and where her strength and resilience would guide every decision she made. This practice provided clarity and reinforced her resolve to act thoughtfully, strategically, and with purpose. Fela then organized her personal belongings, separating items that were hers from those associated with the shared life she had once envisioned with Simon. Each act of organization was symbolic, reinforcing boundaries and asserting ownership over her life and her future. She recognized the emotional weight of these actions, but also understood their necessity. The physical separation mirrored the emotional and psychological separation she was cultivating, a decisive step toward reclaiming agency and establishing clarity in her life. That night, Fela drafted a detailed plan for moving forward. She outlined steps for filing legal documentation, securing her assets, and ensuring personal safety. She also began to consider long-term goals, including professional aspirations and personal growth. Fela recognized that the betrayal, while devastating, presented an opportunity for transformation. By channeling her energy into structured action, she could turn a moment of crisis into a platform for empowerment, achievement, and renewed purpose. As she prepared for rest, Fela allowed herself a sense of cautious optimism. She acknowledged the pain of betrayal, while simultaneously affirming her capacity for resilience and action. She recognized that the journey ahead would require continued vigilance, strategic thinking, and the cultivation of inner strength. Each decision, from legal measures to personal reflection, was a deliberate step toward reclaiming her life, redefining her identity, and laying the groundwork for future fulfillment. Fela Kumalo drifted into sleep with a mixture of determination and clarity. The initial shock of betrayal had been transformed into awakening, a profound realization of her own worth, agency, and capacity for deliberate action. She understood that the coming days would demand courage, strategic insight, and resilience. But she also recognized that she was fully equipped to navigate the challenges ahead. This period of initial shock had become the catalyst for empowerment, the beginning of a journey toward autonomy, strength, and self-defined success. Throughout the night, Fela's mind continued to process the events, shifting from pain to planning. She envisioned meetings with attorneys, steps to secure her assets, and strategies to ensure her emotional well-being remained protected. Each thought reinforced a sense of control and preparedness. By confronting the betrayal head-on and taking deliberate action, she had established the foundation for reclaiming her life, restoring her sense of self, and cultivating a future defined by intentionality, independence, and empowerment. By morning, Fela felt a renewed sense of purpose. The emotional storm had settled into focused energy, a drive to act with precision, clarity, and confidence. She understood that the path ahead would require persistence, careful planning, and unwavering commitment to her values. Every step she had taken from the moment she witnessed Simon's betrayal had been a deliberate assertion of agency, a declaration that she would not be defined or diminished by his choices. Fela Kumalo prepared for the day with a sense of resolve. She reviewed her plans, organized priorities, and set intentions for both legal and personal actions. She understood that empowerment required consistent, thoughtful effort, and that reclaiming her life was both an emotional and strategic endeavor. Each decision she made was informed by clarity, grounded in evidence, and guided by the principles of self-respect and deliberate action. The day unfolded with a sequence of actions that reinforced her autonomy. Fela contacted her attorney, finalized documentation for initiating divorce proceedings, and secured access to financial accounts that were solely under her control. She established routines and boundaries designed to protect her emotional and professional well-being. Each action reinforced her capacity to navigate complex challenges with composure, intelligence, and resolve. By evening, Fela reflected on the transformation she was experiencing. The initial shock of witnessing betrayal had evolved into a profound sense of awakening. She recognized the opportunity to rebuild, redefine, and reclaim her life with intentionality and clarity. Fela understood that the journey ahead would demand courage, strategic insight, and resilience. Yet she also recognized that she possessed the tools, experience, and determination to succeed. Fela Kumalo concluded the day with a sense of purpose and anticipation. She acknowledged the pain of betrayal while embracing the empowerment that came from taking deliberate action and asserting herself. The events of this day had solidified her awareness of personal strength, clarified her priorities, and marked the beginning of a journey toward autonomy, professional achievement, and emotional fulfillment. The initial shock had become the catalyst for awakening, the foundation for a future defined by resilience, strategic action, and empowered living. Fela Kumalo spent the early morning in quiet contemplation, preparing herself for the steps she needed to take to regain control of her life. The shock and emotional turmoil of witnessing Simon Drake with Isabella Reed had begun to give way to a focused determination. She understood that empowerment required deliberate action, and today she would take decisive steps to assert her independence, protect her interests, and reclaim her sense of self. She began by organizing her legal and financial documents. Every account, every contract, and every record of shared assets was carefully reviewed. Fela made notes, highlighting vulnerabilities and identifying areas where swift action was necessary. She contacted her attorney to schedule a consultation and discuss the steps needed to initiate divorce proceedings. The conversation was professional and precise, focusing on safeguarding her assets, intellectual property, and personal safety. Fela's clarity and preparation reflected her growing awareness that control over her life could not be left to chance. Later that morning, Fela arranged for movers to transfer her personal belongings from the shared residence. She supervised the process meticulously, ensuring that everything she had invested in, both materially and symbolically, was secured. Each item packed, each document organized, reinforced her autonomy and independence. She reflected on the years she had dedicated to building her life, supporting Simon, and cultivating a career alongside him. This act of separation was both practical and symbolic, representing the reclaiming of space, resources, and authority over her own life. Once the move was complete, Fela confronted Simon at their home. He appeared disoriented and defensive, clearly unprepared for the firmness and clarity with which Fela approached the situation. She presented the legal documents, including the divorce petition, and outlined the steps she had taken to secure her assets and protect her interests. Simon attempted to interject with pleas and justifications, but Fela listened without interruption, her voice calm yet firm. She emphasized that betrayal was not simply about an affair. It was the culmination of repeated patterns of disregard and exploitation, and that she would no longer tolerate such behavior. Fela's approach was strategic. She maintained her composure, ensuring that every word and every gesture conveyed authority and self-respect. Simon's attempts to manipulate or appeal to emotion were met with rational, measured responses. Fela made it clear that the boundaries she had established were non-negotiable and that any attempts to undermine them would be met with legal enforcement. Her confidence and decisiveness reflected the transformation from a woman blindsided by betrayal to one fully aware of her power and rights. After the confrontation, Fela returned to her apartment to begin the process of reorganizing her life. She prioritized securing her professional interests, contacting clients, and ensuring that Kumalo Solutions continued to operate without disruption. She delegated responsibilities to trusted team members and reviewed upcoming projects, maintaining oversight while affirming her authority. Each decision reinforced her role as a leader, not only in business, but in shaping her own destiny. Throughout the day, Fela reflected on the emotional impact of the confrontation. She allowed herself moments of vulnerability, acknowledging the hurt, disappointment, and anger she felt. Yet she paired this reflection with deliberate action, understanding that empowerment required both emotional processing and tangible steps toward autonomy. By addressing both her inner state and external circumstances, Fela was able to navigate the complexity of betrayal with resilience and clarity. In the evening, she focused on documenting every aspect of the day's actions. Emails to her attorney, notes on the confrontation with Simon, and records of financial adjustments were all carefully organized and maintained. Fela understood that meticulous documentation was essential not only for legal protection, but also for maintaining a sense of control and clarity. Each record reinforced the boundaries she had established and provided a framework for accountability. Fela also reached out to her support network. Friends and family provided encouragement and perspective, reinforcing her sense of self-worth and independence. She spoke candidly about the events of the day, sharing both the challenges and the small victories that had occurred. These conversations served as emotional reinforcement, reminding her that empowerment was supported not only by legal and financial action, but also by connection and community. Later, she took time to reflect on the lessons learned from the confrontation. Fela recognized that decisiveness, preparation, and self-respect were critical in navigating betrayal and reclaiming autonomy. She considered ways to continue building her life independently of Simon, focusing on professional growth, personal well-being, and strategic planning for the future. Each insight reinforced her commitment to living intentionally and taking control of her choices. As night approached, Fela turned her attention to self-care and emotional recovery. She engaged in activities that nurtured her mind and body, reinforcing resilience and clarity. She practiced meditation and visualization, imagining a future defined by autonomy, success, and personal fulfillment. These practices were not acts of escape, but deliberate strategies to strengthen her capacity for thoughtful decision-making and sustained empowerment. She also began to plan for the next steps in her legal and personal journey. This included scheduling meetings with her attorney, preparing further documentation, and considering long-term strategies for financial and professional security. Fela understood that empowerment was an ongoing process, requiring foresight, consistency, and deliberate action. Each planned step reinforced her agency and positioned her for continued growth and success. By the end of the day, Fela felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had confronted the betrayal, established legal and financial boundaries, and begun the process of reclaiming her life. The combination of strategic action, emotional reflection, and practical planning created a foundation of empowerment that would support her in the days and months ahead. She recognized that while the path forward would include challenges, she possessed the clarity, resilience, and determination to navigate them successfully. Fela Kumalo prepared for rest with a sense of resolution and anticipation. She reflected on the significance of the day, acknowledging the courage it took to confront betrayal directly and the strength gained from taking decisive action. Her thoughts centered on the emerging independence, professional clarity, and emotional empowerment that she had cultivated. The events of the day marked a turning point, a transition from reactive pain to proactive leadership over her own life. As she lay in bed, Fela allowed herself a quiet moment of pride. She had transformed the initial shock of betrayal into a platform for assertive action and personal growth. Each step taken reinforced her sense of agency and clarified the boundaries that would guide her interactions and decisions moving forward. She understood that empowerment required both courage and strategy, and she had demonstrated both in abundance. Fela drifted into sleep with a sense of calm determination. She recognized that the confrontation was not the end, but the beginning of a journey toward full autonomy, professional success, and personal fulfillment. The clarity, preparation, and decisiveness she exhibited throughout the day had established a firm foundation for her future. The steps she had taken today would ensure that her life, her work, and her well-being remained firmly under her control, guided by intentional action, self-respect, and unwavering resolve. Throughout the night, Fela's mind continued to process the events, planning for subsequent actions and envisioning the life she was building. She recognized that empowerment was cultivated through deliberate, consistent effort, combining emotional resilience, strategic thinking, and assertive decision-making. Each thought reinforced her agency, her clarity, and her commitment to living a life defined by her own values and choices. By morning, Fela Kumalo was ready to engage with the world with renewed focus and determination. The confrontation had clarified her priorities, strengthened her sense of self, and reaffirmed her ability to take decisive action. She understood that the journey toward autonomy and empowerment was ongoing, and she approached it with confidence, strategic foresight, and unwavering commitment to her principles. Fela Kumalo awoke to the soft hum of the city below, a gentle reminder that life moved forward regardless of past betrayals. She had spent the previous weeks confronting Simon Drake, securing her assets and establishing boundaries. Now she was ready to focus on rebuilding her life, both personally and professionally. The emotional clarity she had gained fueled her determination to transform adversity into opportunity and to create a foundation for lasting success. Her morning began with a thorough review of Kumalo Solutions. The company had been her vision long before Simon had taken it for granted, and now she intended to assert complete control. Fela analyzed client portfolios, ongoing projects, and potential business expansions. Every detail mattered, from operational efficiency to employee satisfaction and long-term strategy. She made notes, prioritized urgent matters, and delegated responsibilities with precision. Fela understood that effective leadership required a balance of oversight, trust, and empowerment for her team. By mid-morning, Fela conducted interviews with potential hires for key positions in her company. She sought individuals who were not only skilled, but aligned with her vision of ethical leadership, innovation, and collaboration. Each conversation emphasized competence, integrity, and the ability to make meaningful contributions to the team. Fela was meticulous, aware that building a strong foundation required both talent and cultural fit. She saw her role as a mentor and guide, fostering growth while maintaining accountability and responsibility. In the afternoon, Fela focused on launching new initiatives for Kumalo Solutions. She explored partnerships, innovative solutions, and avenues for business expansion. Each project was reviewed in detail, with careful consideration of market trends, client needs, and potential risks. Fela approached these decisions strategically, balancing ambition with realism, creativity with pragmatism, and growth with sustainability. Her actions reflected both confidence and foresight, ensuring that the company would flourish under her leadership. During a break, Fela reflected on her personal journey. The betrayal she had endured with Simon had been painful, yet it had revealed her inner strength and resilience. She acknowledged the emotional scars, but also recognized the empowerment that had emerged from decisive action. Each challenge had been a lesson in self-respect, strategic thinking, and the importance of boundaries. Fela understood that rebuilding was as much about emotional fortitude as it was about professional achievement. Later, she met with Tobias Winters to discuss potential investments and collaborative projects. Their professional relationship had developed naturally alongside their personal connection, which was built on trust, respect, and a shared vision. Tobias admired Fela's clarity of purpose, strategic insight, and unwavering integrity. They explored opportunities that would expand Kumalo Solutions while maintaining the ethical and cultural standards Fela valued. The conversation reinforced her conviction that partnership, when grounded in mutual respect and shared objectives, can foster both personal fulfillment and professional success. Fela also took time to address her personal life. She arranged to move fully into her apartment, organizing her space in a way that fostered focus, creativity, and tranquility. Each item she placed had meaning, reflecting independence, achievement, and personal identity. The process of creating a space that was entirely her own reinforced the emotional and psychological separation from her past with Simon. It was both a practical and symbolic act, demonstrating that she was reclaiming control over her life in every sense. Evening brought a period of reflection and journaling. Fela wrote about the lessons she had learned from betrayal, the strategies she had implemented to regain autonomy, and the growth she had achieved. Her writing was deliberate, capturing both emotional insights and practical considerations for the future. She reflected on the value of resilience, the importance of maintaining ethical standards, and the power of intentional action in transforming adversity into opportunity. Each entry strengthened her resolve and clarified her vision for the life she intended to build. Fela then focused on establishing new routines that supported both professional and personal growth. She prioritized exercise, mindfulness practices, and networking with like-minded professionals. She understood that sustainable success required attention to both mental and physical well-being, alongside strategic planning and decisive action. Her days were structured to maximize efficiency, creativity, and emotional balance, ensuring that she could pursue her goals without compromising her health or mental clarity. Later in the evening, Fela hosted a small meeting with her core team to discuss long-term strategies. They reviewed upcoming projects, explored potential innovations, and addressed challenges with practical solutions. Fela encouraged open dialogue, valuing contributions from every team member while maintaining clear direction and accountability. The meeting reflected her leadership philosophy, empowering others while guiding them toward a shared vision, fostering both individual growth and organizational success. As the night progressed, Fela reflected on the broader implications of her professional decisions. She recognized that rebuilding her company was not solely about personal success, but about creating opportunities, setting standards, and influencing her industry. She envisioned Kumalo Solutions as a model of ethical leadership, innovation, and resilience. Each strategic decision she made was aimed at fostering long-term stability, cultivating talent, and establishing a reputation for excellence and integrity. Fela also reflected on her evolving relationship with Tobias. Mutual respect, shared goals, and emotional support characterized their partnership. She valued his insights and perspective, understanding that collaboration could enhance both personal fulfillment and professional achievement. Their connection was a source of balance, providing encouragement and inspiration as she navigated the complexities of rebuilding her life and business. Before retiring for the night, Fela reviewed her accomplishments and outlined priorities for the coming days. She considered operational strategies, personal development, and long-term goals. Each reflection reinforced her clarity, focus, and commitment to deliberate action. Fela recognized that rebuilding required consistent effort, strategic foresight, and the cultivation of both emotional resilience and professional expertise. As she prepared for sleep, Fela allowed herself a moment of gratitude. She acknowledged the challenges she had faced, the steps she had taken to reclaim her autonomy, and the growth she had achieved. She understood that the process of rebuilding was ongoing, and that every decision, action, and reflection contributed to a life defined by independence, strategic success, and personal empowerment. Fela Kumalo drifted into rest, confident in her ability to navigate the future. She had transformed the pain of betrayal into motivation, decisiveness, and renewed vision. The steps she had taken to rebuild her company, establish personal boundaries, and foster meaningful relationships created a foundation for sustained success and fulfillment. She knew that her journey was only beginning, but she was fully equipped to pursue growth, influence, and empowerment with clarity, integrity, and unwavering determination. Throughout the night, Fela's mind processed the day's accomplishments and planned for upcoming opportunities. She envisioned a future where her professional endeavors thrived, her personal life was balanced, and her influence extended to inspire and empower others. Each thought reinforced her strategic focus, emotional resilience, and commitment to living a life defined by intentional action and self-respect. By morning, Fela Kumalo was prepared to continue her journey of rebuilding with energy, clarity, and determination. She understood that new beginnings required both strategic planning and emotional fortitude. She embraced the challenges and opportunities ahead, confident in her ability to create a life and business grounded in empowerment, integrity, and lasting success. Fela Kumalo arrived at the elegant restaurant with a sense of composure that belied the storm of emotions she had carried for months. This was the place where Simon Drake had once proposed, a location heavy with memories that had shifted from joy to betrayal. Fela had spent countless hours preparing for this encounter, not merely to hear apologies, but to assert the boundaries, clarity, and autonomy she had painstakingly established. She understood that closure required presence, intention, and the courage to face what had once caused profound pain. Simon was already there, seated at a table near the window, his posture betraying unease. As Fela approached, she felt the familiar surge of tension, tempered by the calm she had cultivated through deliberate action and reflection. She walked with confidence, her eyes meeting his with steadiness rather than accusation. There was no need for theatrics or dramatics. Her presence alone communicated authority and strength. The waiter approached, and Fela ordered a simple meal, her mind focused not on indulgence, but on the purpose of this encounter. Simon rose to greet her, offering a tentative smile. Fela responded with a nod, maintaining a composed demeanor. The initial moments were awkward, marked by unspoken tension and the weight of a shared history. Simon began to speak, his words halting as he attempted to convey remorse. He acknowledged the depth of his betrayal, admitted the mistakes that had caused pain, and expressed a desire for redemption. Fela listened without interruption, allowing him to voice his regrets fully while maintaining her inner calm. As Simon spoke, Fela reflected on the journey that had led her here, and the months of emotional turbulence, strategic action, and personal growth had strengthened her resolve. She had previously confronted him, taken legal and financial steps to secure her autonomy, and rebuilt her life and career with diligence and focus. The apology before her now was merely words. Fela knew that actual change required consistent behavior, accountability, and transformation. Her role was not to grant absolution lightly, but to affirm her own agency and boundaries. Fela finally spoke, her voice calm yet deliberate. She acknowledged his words without offering immediate forgiveness. She emphasized that trust, once broken, could not be restored by a simple apology. Fela articulated the pain she had endured, the lessons she had learned, and the deliberate steps she had taken to reclaim her life. She highlighted her independence, professional success, and emotional resilience, making it clear that her value and sense of self were intact and unshaken by his actions. Simon attempted to interject, expressing his willingness to make amends and his desire to rebuild what had been lost. Fela allowed him to finish but maintained her boundaries. She explained that reconciliation was not possible, that her path forward was independent, and that her focus was on personal growth and fulfillment. This conversation was not about punishment, but about clarity, affirmation, and asserting self-respect. Fela recognized that proper closure required understanding, not confrontation, and empowerment rather than entanglement. Throughout the discussion, Fela maintained a composed demeanor, her emotions controlled yet authentic. She communicated the depth of betrayal and its consequences without resorting to anger or recrimination. Her articulation was precise, reflecting both emotional intelligence and strategic clarity. She reminded Simon that his actions had not only affected her personally, but had also challenged the trust and respect fundamental to their shared history. The weight of his actions was undeniable, and Fela ensured that this reality was fully understood without diminishing her own dignity. As the conversation progressed, Simon shifted from a defensive tone to a quieter, reflective one. He appeared to recognize the permanence of her boundaries and the sincerity of her self-assertion. Fela observed this transformation with a measured sense of detachment. She did not seek validation from his recognition, but noted that accountability, even partial, was a step toward closure. Fela's focus remained on her own empowerment, ensuring that her decisions were guided by self-respect and intention rather than reaction or emotion. The conversation eventually turned to the future. Fela articulated her vision for her personal and professional life, emphasizing autonomy, growth, and fulfillment. She spoke of her business, philanthropic endeavors, and individual aspirations, highlighting the achievements she had attained through diligence, strategic action, and resilience. Simon listened attentively, a mixture of remorse and resignation evident in his demeanor. Fela's words were clear. Her future was hers alone, defined by deliberate choices and unwavering boundaries. After the discussion, Fela allowed a moment of quiet reflection. The restaurant, once a symbol of romantic beginnings, now represented closure and affirmation. She had confronted the source of betrayal, articulated her pain and strength, and set the terms for her continued life with clarity and dignity. This act was not merely symbolic, it was a tangible demonstration of empowerment, autonomy, and emotional intelligence. Fela understood that closure was not about erasing the past, but integrating it into a narrative of personal growth and resilience. Fela then left the restaurant with Tobias Winters waiting outside. His presence was a grounding force, a reminder of partnership, support, and shared vision. They walked together through the city streets, discussing plans, business strategies, and personal aspirations. The contrast between the encounter with Simon and her life with Tobias was stark. Where one relationship had been rooted in betrayal and exploitation, the other was founded on trust, mutual respect, and shared goals. This reflection reinforced Fela's understanding of the importance of surrounding oneself with people who support growth, empowerment, and integrity. Throughout the evening, Fela and Tobias planned initiatives for both business and personal development. They discussed mentorship programs, strategic investments, and philanthropic outreach. Fela recognized that her empowerment was not solely individual, but also collective, extending to those she mentored, inspired, and supported. Each plan was deliberate, aligning personal values with professional objectives to create impact, sustainability, and fulfillment. Later that night, Fela reflected on the significance of the confrontation. She acknowledged the complexity of emotions experienced, the courage required to face Simon directly, and the clarity achieved through articulate and deliberate communication. Closure had been attained, not through forgiveness or reconciliation, but through self-assertion, boundary setting, and the acknowledgement of her own strength and resilience. The encounter reinforced the lessons of empowerment, strategic action, and personal sovereignty that she had cultivated over the months. Fela also recognized the importance of emotional release and processing. She journaled about the encounter, capturing both the factual events and the emotional resonance that it evoked. Her writing emphasized self-reflection, learning, and the integration of past experiences into a framework for future growth and development. Fela understood that documenting and processing such experiences was crucial for long-term empowerment, as it helped solidify lessons learned and reinforce personal boundaries. By the end of the night, Fela felt a profound sense of relief and empowerment. She had confronted the source of past pain, articulated her autonomy, and affirmed her commitment to a future defined by independence, integrity, and growth. The emotional closure she achieved was a testament to her resilience, strategic thinking, and ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics with clarity and strength. Fela Kumalo went to bed with a sense of calm and purpose. The confrontation with Simon Drake was no longer a source of lingering pain, but a completed chapter in her narrative of empowerment. She understood that her strength lay not in avoidance or reaction, but in deliberate action, clear communication, and the assertion of self-respect. Each choice she made reinforced her autonomy, professional success, and emotional well-being. As she drifted off to sleep, Fela visualized the life she was building, one grounded in empowerment, intentionality, and growth. She embraced the lessons learned from betrayal and confrontation, integrating them into a broader narrative of resilience, leadership, and personal fulfillment. The final confrontation with Simon had not only provided emotional closure, but also reinforced the clarity, courage, and strategic insight that defined Fela Kumalo as a woman entirely in control of her life and future. Through the night, her mind processed the encounter, reflecting on both challenges and triumphs. Fela understood that closure was an ongoing process, supported by continuous reflection, intentional action, and the cultivation of empowering relationships. She welcomed the future with confidence, prepared to continue her journey of growth, independence, and meaningful impact on both personal and professional levels. Fela Khumalo awoke to a sense of purpose that had been absent for months. The confrontation with Simon Drake and the subsequent closure had freed her from the weight of betrayal, leaving her with clarity, focus, and an unshakable determination to build her life on her own terms. She understood that empowerment was not a destination, but a process of consistent action, self-reflection, and deliberate choices. Today, she would continue that journey, channeling energy into personal growth, professional expansion, and meaningful relationships. The morning began with a detailed review of Khumalo's solutions. Fela analyzed ongoing projects, client communications, and team performance metrics. She identified areas for improvement and growth, strategizing on ways to enhance efficiency, innovation, and employee engagement. Every decision was deliberate, grounded in both short-term operational needs and long-term strategic vision. Fela recognized that the success of her company was inseparable from her own empowerment, reflecting her values, leadership, and clarity of purpose. By mid-morning, Fela conducted meetings with her leadership team. She emphasized accountability, collaboration, and forward thinking. Each department was tasked with presenting plans to expand services, improve client satisfaction, and implement creative solutions to ongoing challenges. Fela listened attentively, offering guidance without micromanaging, fostering both independence and cohesion among her staff. Her leadership style struck a balance between authority and empathy, enabling her team to thrive while reinforcing her position as a decisive and visionary leader. Fela also devoted time to mentoring rising professionals within her company. She shared insights from her experiences navigating personal and professional challenges, emphasizing the importance of resilience, strategic thinking, and self-respect. These mentoring sessions were both empowering and reciprocal, as she found inspiration in the ambition, creativity, and determination of those she guided. Fela understood that authentic leadership was measured not only by individual success, but by the ability to elevate others while maintaining integrity and vision. In the afternoon, Fela met with Tobias Winters to discuss joint initiatives and potential investments. Their partnership was founded on mutual respect, a shared vision, and trust. They explored opportunities to expand Khumalo Solutions into new markets, invest in innovative projects, and establish programs to support emerging entrepreneurs. Each conversation was strategic and forward-thinking, blending business acumen with ethical considerations. Fela valued Tobias not only as a partner, but also as a sounding board, someone whose perspective enhanced her decision-making and reinforced her confidence. Between meetings, Fela dedicated time to personal development. She engaged in reading, reflection, and skill enhancement, understanding that growth required continuous learning. She explored topics ranging from leadership strategies to emotional intelligence, financial planning, and industry innovations. This commitment to self-improvement reinforced her resilience and prepared her to navigate complex challenges with insight, creativity, and strategic clarity. Fela recognized that her empowerment was multifaceted, encompassing emotional, professional, and intellectual growth. Later in the afternoon, Fela focused on philanthropic initiatives. She established a scholarship fund to support young women pursuing careers in business and technology. This initiative reflected her commitment to empowerment not only for herself, but for others who faced systemic barriers or personal challenges. Fela believed that true success was measured by the positive impact one could have on the lives of others. And she was deliberate in creating structures to foster opportunity, mentorship, and growth. Throughout the evening, Fela reviewed long-term strategies for Khumalo Solutions. She considered market trends, competitor analysis, and potential partnerships to inform her decision. Her planning was meticulous, integrating data-driven insights with her vision for ethical leadership, innovation, and sustainability. Fela understood that long-term success required foresight, strategic thinking, and adaptability. Each plan was evaluated for its alignment with her values, its potential for growth, and its capacity to create a meaningful impact. Fela also nurtured her personal relationships. She spent quality time with Tobias, discussing plans, personal aspirations, and mutual support systems. Their connection was characterized by trust, transparency, and shared ambition. Fela valued the balance between personal fulfillment and professional collaboration, understanding that a strong foundation in both spheres reinforced her overall sense of empowerment and resilience. Their partnership exemplified mutual respect, shared goals, and emotional support. As night approached, Fela dedicated time to reflection and journaling. She captured insights from the day, assessed progress toward goals, and articulated intentions for the future. This practice reinforced clarity, accountability, and intentionality. By documenting her experiences, she created a tangible record of growth, resilience, and strategic action. Fela recognized that reflection was a critical component of empowerment, allowing her to integrate lessons learned, maintain focus, and refine her approach to both personal and professional challenges. Fela also invested time in wellness and self-care. She engaged in exercise, meditation, and activities that nurtured mental and emotional balance. These routines were not indulgent, but necessary for sustaining clarity, focus, and resilience. Fela understood that empowerment required a holistic approach, integrating physical, emotional, and intellectual well-being into a sustainable framework for leadership and personal growth. Throughout the night, Fela envisioned the future she was building. She imagined Kumalo Solutions thriving as a model of ethical leadership, innovation, and resilience. She envisioned herself expanding her philanthropic efforts, mentoring emerging leaders, and cultivating meaningful partnerships. Each vision reinforced her sense of purpose, determination, and empowerment. Fela knew that the foundation she was building was rooted in deliberate action, a clear vision, and an unwavering commitment to her values. By the end of the day, Fela felt a profound sense of accomplishment and momentum. She had navigated complex challenges, expanded her professional influence, and nurtured personal growth. Each decision, interaction, and reflection reinforced her autonomy and strategic capacity. She understood that empowerment was both a state of mind and a practice, cultivated through consistent action, deliberate planning, and thoughtful reflection. Fela Kumalo prepared for rest with gratitude for the growth she had achieved and anticipation for the future she was creating. She recognized that her journey was ongoing, requiring vigilance, adaptability, and continued commitment to her vision. The combination of professional expansion, personal development, and meaningful relationships reinforced her resilience, strategic insight, and ability to navigate challenges with confidence and clarity. As she lay in bed, Fela reflected on the transformation she had experienced over the past months. The betrayal she endured, the confrontations she faced, and the deliberate steps she took to reclaim her life had solidified her sense of self, autonomy, and purpose. Each action, from strategic business decisions to personal reflection and mentorship, contributed to a life characterized by empowerment, integrity, and intentional success. Throughout the night, Fela's mind processed opportunities, strategies, and insights. She envisioned continued growth for Kumalo Solutions, expansion of philanthropic initiatives, and deepening of meaningful personal and professional relationships. Each thought reinforced her commitment to intentional living, strategic action, and empowerment. Fela recognized that her resilience, clarity, and determination were not only her own assets, but also tools she could use to elevate others and create lasting impact. By morning, Fela Kumalo was prepared to engage with the world with renewed focus, energy, and determination. She understood that empowerment required consistent action, reflection, and strategic thinking. Each day was an opportunity to reinforce autonomy, build influence, and foster meaningful growth. Fela embraced the challenges and opportunities ahead, confident in her ability to navigate complexity, cultivate resilience, and create a life defined by intention, integrity, and lasting success. Fela Kumalo had spent months rebuilding her life with focus, clarity, and determination. Her company, Kumalo Solutions, had grown steadily, and her personal life was stabilizing through her relationship with Tobias Winters. Yet empowerment was not a static achievement, and she knew that maintaining autonomy and clarity required vigilance, especially when past entanglements resurfaced in unexpected ways. The reappearance of Simon Drake in public and professional spaces posed a new challenge, testing both her patience and her strategic judgment. The morning began with Fela reviewing correspondence and news alerts regarding Simon. He had started attending industry conferences, networking events, and social gatherings where Fela's presence was expected. His behavior appeared calculated, an attempt to insert himself into her professional sphere and challenge the boundaries she had set. Fela understood immediately that this was no longer about reconciliation, but about control and influence. She meticulously documented every incident, recognizing the importance of evidence and clarity in case legal action became necessary. By mid-morning, Fela convened a meeting with her legal team. She outlined the patterns of Simon's behavior, including public appearances, unsolicited messages, and attempts to gather information about her business activities. Her attorney emphasized the importance of establishing formal boundaries through written notices and, if necessary, restraining orders. Fela absorbed the advice carefully, formulating a strategy that would protect her professional integrity, personal safety, and emotional well-being. She knew that acting with precision and forethought was essential to prevent escalation. Following the legal consultation, Fela turned her attention to her company. She convened a strategic meeting with her senior leadership team to review potential risks, client interactions, and operational security. She reinforced protocols for communication, confidentiality, and workplace behavior. Fela emphasized the importance of maintaining professional standards while remaining vigilant against external interference. Her team responded with diligence and focus, reflecting the culture of accountability and resilience she had cultivated. Later in the day, Fela encountered Simon unexpectedly at a high-profile industry seminar. He approached with a forced casualness, attempting to engage in conversation in front of colleagues and potential clients. Fela remained composed, responding politely yet firmly, and refused to engage in personal discussion. She maintained her professional demeanor, ensuring that her conduct demonstrated integrity, control, and emotional discipline. The interaction was brief, yet it reinforced her understanding that empowerment required both restraint and assertive boundary setting in public and private spheres. After the seminar, Fela took time to reflect and document the encounter. She recorded her observations, the content of Simon's attempts at engagement, and her responses. This practice reinforced her sense of control and provided a concrete record should further action be necessary. She recognized that consistent documentation and awareness were essential tools in managing complex interpersonal challenges while preserving professional credibility. In the afternoon, Fela met with Tobias to discuss the ongoing situation. Their partnership was a source of support and perspective. Tobias helped her evaluate options for maintaining boundaries, responding to harassment, and protecting her professional interests. They developed a coordinated approach, striking a balance between caution and proactive measures. Fela valued this collaboration, recognizing that empowerment was strengthened by strategic alliances and the ability to seek counsel without compromising independence. Fela also prioritized her own emotional well-being. She engaged in meditation and reflection to manage stress and maintain clarity. She recognized that external challenges could provoke emotional reactions, and she deliberately cultivated resilience through self-awareness, mindfulness, and the reinforcement of personal boundaries. Each moment of reflection was an opportunity to reinforce her autonomy, emotional stability, and strategic perspective. By late afternoon, Fela drafted formal communications to Simon, establishing clear boundaries and expectations. She articulated the legal, professional, and personal limits he must respect, emphasizing that any attempts to circumvent them would be met with formal action. Her tone was firm but measured, reflecting both authority and professionalism. Fela understood that clarity and consistency were essential in preventing further interference and reinforcing her autonomy. Evening brought further professional commitments. Fela reviewed project progress, client interactions, and business development strategies. She engaged with her team to ensure that operations continued smoothly despite the distraction of Simon's interference. Her attention to detail and consistent leadership reinforced the culture of excellence she had cultivated within Kumalo Solutions. Fela's ability to balance external challenges with internal priorities exemplified her growth as a leader and her capacity for resilience under pressure. Later that evening, Fela reflected on the broader implications of her experiences. She considered how maintaining boundaries, asserting authority, and protecting personal and professional integrity were essential aspects of empowerment. She recognized that challenges, while difficult, offered opportunities to demonstrate strength, clarity, and strategic thinking. Fela also acknowledged the importance of maintaining focus on growth, opportunity, and personal fulfillment, refusing to allow external disruptions to derail her trajectory. Fela dedicated time to journaling, documenting the day's events, her observations, and the strategies she employed. This practice reinforced her awareness, strategic planning, and emotional clarity. By recording details and reflecting on patterns, Fela strengthened her capacity to anticipate challenges, respond with precision, and maintain control over her life and professional environment. Each entry was an exercise in self-empowerment, reinforcing the principles of agency, resilience, and intentional action. She also used the evening to cultivate her personal relationships and self-care. Fela spent quality time with Tobias, discussing future goals, shared plans, and ways to support each other in navigating challenges. She engaged in activities that promoted relaxation, focus, and emotional balance, recognizing that sustained empowerment required attention to holistic well-being. Fela's deliberate integration of personal growth, professional vigilance, and emotional resilience ensured that her life remained balanced and intentional. As night approached, Fela reviewed long-term strategies for Kumalo Solutions in light of recent challenges. She identified areas for strengthening operational security, enhancing communication protocols, and reinforcing professional standards. She considered potential scenarios and contingency plans, ensuring that the company and her own autonomy were protected. Fela's foresight and proactive measures reflected her commitment to maintaining control, integrity, and strategic advantage. Before retiring for the night, Fela reflected on the lessons embedded in the day's experiences. She recognized that challenges were inherent to empowerment, and that resilience, clarity, and strategic action were essential to navigating obstacles. Fela understood that maintaining boundaries, asserting authority, and protecting personal and professional interests were ongoing responsibilities that required vigilance, consistency, and intentionality. As she lay in bed, Fela Kumalo embraced a sense of calm determination. The events of the day reinforced her confidence in her ability to navigate complexity, maintain clarity, and uphold her autonomy. She acknowledged both the difficulty of external challenges and the strength she had cultivated to address them effectively. Each reflection solidified her sense of empowerment, resilience, and purpose. Throughout the night, Fela's mind processed the interactions, strategies, and lessons of the day. She envisioned continued growth for Kumalo Solutions, expansion of her personal and professional influence, and the reinforcement of healthy, empowering boundaries. Each thought reinforced her commitment to intentional living, strategic decision-making, and cultivating resilience. Fela understood that her empowerment was both a mindset and a practice, requiring consistency, awareness, and deliberate action. By morning, Fela was prepared to face new challenges with confidence, clarity, and composure. She understood that obstacles were opportunities to demonstrate strength, strategic insight, and emotional intelligence. Her approach combined vigilance, proactive planning, and adherence to personal and professional boundaries. Fela embraced the future with a sense of agency, resilience, and unwavering commitment to her values, prepared to maintain empowerment in all spheres of her life. Fela Kumalo woke to the gentle warmth of sunlight streaming through her apartment windows. The city outside moved with its usual rhythm, but inside, her thoughts were centered on the life she was building with intention, clarity, and love. After months of confronting betrayal, Reclaiming her autonomy and establishing boundaries, she felt ready to embrace a future defined by partnership, trust, and shared vision. Tobias Winters had become an essential part of that vision, a supportive and inspiring presence whose respect and insight matched her own drive and ambition. The morning began with a quiet breakfast together. Fela and Tobias discussed their plans for the day, striking a balance between business commitments and personal goals. Their conversations flowed naturally, grounded in mutual respect and shared values. Fela appreciated how Tobias listened attentively, offered thoughtful suggestions, and encouraged her to maintain balance while pursuing her ambitions. This sense of partnership was a stark contrast to her past experiences, reminding her that love built on trust and respect enhanced personal and professional growth rather than hindering it. By mid-morning, Fela focused on plans for an upcoming business expansion. Kumalo Solutions had established a solid reputation in the market, and new opportunities required careful strategic planning. Fela and Tobias reviewed potential partnerships, investment opportunities, and market research. They analyzed trends, client needs, and operational considerations with precision and insight. Every decision was deliberate, reflecting both ambition and a sense of ethical responsibility. Fela valued how Tobias contributed to the planning process, offering perspectives that complemented her own while respecting her leadership role. Later in the day, Fela visited a vineyard that had been suggested as a potential site for a special gathering. As they walked through rows of grapevines, Tobias paused, taking a deep breath, and spoke with a deliberate calmness. He shared his thoughts about the future, his admiration for Fela's resilience, and his desire to deepen their partnership both personally and professionally. Fela listened attentively, sensing the sincerity and intentionality behind his words. She realized that their relationship was moving toward a new chapter, one that celebrated mutual commitment, shared goals, and emotional connection. Tobias then proposed a symbolic gesture of commitment. He had carefully planned a moment that reflected both thoughtfulness and significance. As the sun cast a golden glow over the vineyard, he expressed his desire to spend their life supporting, challenging, and inspiring one another. Fela felt a mixture of anticipation, warmth, and clarity. She understood that this was not a repetition of past experiences, but a conscious choice grounded in respect, understanding, and shared vision. She accepted his proposal with confidence, affirming their partnership and the future they intended to build together. After the proposal, they discussed practical plans for merging aspects of their lives while maintaining individuality and professional integrity. Fela emphasized the importance of continuing to lead Kumalo Solutions with autonomy and focus, while Tobias supported initiatives that complemented her vision. They planned for shared investments, philanthropic endeavors, and personal milestones. Their discussion was both strategic and deeply personal, reflecting a balance of love, ambition, and planning. Later in the afternoon, Fela returned to her office to continue strategic planning for her company. She drafted proposals, reviewed contracts, and prepared for meetings with potential investors. The sense of stability she felt in her personal life allowed her to focus with renewed energy on professional initiatives. She understood that personal fulfillment and professional achievement were interconnected, and that her partnership with Tobias strengthened her capacity to pursue both with clarity, focus, and resilience. Throughout the day, Fela considered how her experiences with betrayal, confrontation, and empowerment had prepared her to recognize and nurture a healthy relationship. She reflected on the contrast between past relationships and her connection with Tobias, appreciating the qualities of respect, support, and shared vision that defined their partnership. These reflections reinforced her commitment to making intentional choices, establishing clear boundaries, and aligning her personal and professional values. In the evening, Fela and Tobias hosted a small gathering with close friends and colleagues to celebrate both personal milestones and professional achievements. The atmosphere was warm, collaborative, and filled with energy. Fela engaged with her team, sharing her vision for the company and the projects she intended to develop. She also took time to honor her personal growth and the supportive presence Tobias brought into her life. The event reflected a holistic approach to success, integrating personal fulfillment, professional accomplishment, and meaningful relationships. After the gathering, Fela and Tobias spent quiet time together, reflecting on the day and their plans. They discussed strategies for business growth, philanthropy, and personal development, while also taking moments to enjoy the simple pleasures of companionship. Fela appreciated the balance Tobias offered, combining encouragement, challenge, and emotional support. She recognized that a healthy partnership required ongoing communication, planning, and mutual respect, and they approached their relationship with that understanding fully in mind. Later that evening, Fela dedicated time to personal reflection and journaling. She wrote about her journey, the lessons learned from past challenges, and the significance of embracing love and partnership without compromising autonomy. Her writing emphasized clarity, intention, and gratitude. Fela acknowledged the transformative power of resilience, strategic action, and careful choice, understanding that her current happiness was the result of deliberate efforts to reclaim control, define boundaries, and pursue meaningful growth. Fela also planned the next steps in their shared life, including upcoming travel, investment projects, and community initiatives. She considered how their partnership could have a positive impact, create opportunities for others, and strengthen both their personal and professional spheres. Each plan was approached with intention, striking a balance between ambition, ethical responsibility, and emotional fulfillment. Fela's ability to integrate multiple dimensions of her life reflected her growth, resilience, and commitment to empowerment. As night approached, Fela and Tobias prepared to conclude the day with a quiet moment together. They reflected on accomplishments, challenges, and shared aspirations. Fela felt a profound sense of alignment, understanding that her life was moving in a direction defined by clarity, integrity, and intentional choice. The future they envisioned was not merely a continuation of past experiences, but a deliberately crafted path grounded in partnership, respect, and shared goals. Before retiring for the night, Fela reflected on the significance of love as a complement to empowerment. She understood that true partnership enhanced personal and professional growth rather than compromising it. The relationship with Tobias exemplified this principle, combining trust, mutual support, and shared ambition. Fela felt gratitude for the journey she had undertaken, acknowledging the strength, resilience, and clarity that had prepared her to fully embrace this new chapter. Throughout the night, Fela's mind processed both the day's experiences and long-term visions. She envisioned continued growth for Kumalo Solutions, expansion of philanthropic initiatives, and a deeper partnership with Tobias. Each reflection reinforced her commitment to intentional living, strategic decision-making, and cultivating meaningful relationships. Fela recognized that empowerment and love were complementary, and that deliberate choices allowed her to integrate both successfully into her life. By morning, Fela Kumalo was prepared to continue building a life defined by empowerment, partnership, and growth. She understood that embracing love did not diminish autonomy, but strengthened her capacity for resilience, strategic insight, and personal fulfillment. Each day offered an opportunity to deepen connections, pursue ambitious goals, and create a future that reflected her values, vision, and unwavering commitment to intentional living. Fela Kumalo had navigated months of challenges, growth, and empowerment, yet one chapter remained unfinished. Simon Drake had resurfaced in ways that tested both her patience and her resolve. The time had come for a final confrontation. This meeting would close the door on past betrayals and reaffirm the autonomy, clarity, and strength Fela had cultivated. She approached the day with calm determination, understanding that this encounter required focus, composure, and strategic action rather than emotional reaction. The meeting was arranged at her parents' residence, a place of grounding, history, and familial support. Fela arrived early, ensuring that every detail of the environment supported both safety and comfort. Her parents were present, offering quiet reassurance. Their presence reminded Fela of the foundation upon which she had built her resilience and autonomy. She understood that empowerment was not only personal but also relational, strengthened by a network of trust and support. Simon arrived shortly after, visibly tense yet attempting an air of casualness. Fela greeted him with measured politeness, her posture and demeanor reflecting confidence and authority. She allowed him to speak first, listening carefully as he expressed regret, admitted mistakes, and requested forgiveness. Simon attempted to explain his past actions, attributing them to personal failings, pressure, and poor judgment. Fela listened without interruption, maintaining a calm and steady presence, signaling that while she acknowledged his words, her own boundaries and autonomy remained intact. Fela responded with clarity and precision. She articulated the consequences of his actions, both emotional and practical, emphasizing the depth of betrayal and the work required to rebuild her life. She reminded Simon that his transgressions had not only affected their relationship, but had challenged trust, respect, and mutual accountability. Fela spoke without anger or recrimination, choosing language that conveyed firmness, clarity, and unwavering resolve. Her goal was not to shame, but to establish understanding and closure. Simon attempted to interject with explanations and appeals, expressing a desire to reconcile and reclaim aspects of the past. Fela remained composed, asserting that reconciliation was not possible. She highlighted the deliberate steps she had taken to secure her independence, financial autonomy, and emotional well-being. Fela emphasized that closure was not equivalent to forgiveness, but rather a conscious choice to move forward with integrity, self-respect, and a clear purpose. Throughout the conversation, Fela maintained a posture of empowerment, reflecting both internal strength and strategic awareness. She mentally documented the encounter, noting patterns, statements, and the implications for future interactions. This awareness reinforced her ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics while maintaining her autonomy and professional credibility. Fela understood that control over her life was a function of deliberate action, boundary setting, and emotional intelligence. As the dialogue continued, Fela articulated her expectations for boundaries and legal considerations. She explained the necessity of formal measures, including restraining orders and communication limits, to ensure her safety and professional integrity. Simon listened, a mixture of remorse and resignation evident in his demeanor. Fela's measured approach left no ambiguity regarding her intentions or the consequences of future violations. Her clarity reinforced the permanence of the closure she sought and the empowerment she had cultivated over months of careful action. The conversation shifted to the future. Fela expressed her commitment to continued growth, professional development, and personal fulfillment. She emphasized the importance of surrounding herself with supportive relationships, strategic alliances, and opportunities for making a meaningful impact. Fela emphasized that her life would be defined by intentional choices, ethical leadership, and empowerment, leaving no space for the repetition of past mistakes or manipulations. Simon was confronted with the reality of her independence, success, and resilience. After the conversation, Fela took a moment to reflect and center herself. The encounter, although challenging, was conducted with integrity, clarity, and strategic intent. She recognized that emotional closure was achieved not through vindication, but through deliberate communication, boundary setting, and affirmation of self-worth. The presence of her parents reinforced the support and grounding that had enabled her to navigate the situation with composure and authority. Fela then reviewed her personal and professional strategies for maintaining boundaries and autonomy. She updated legal documents, communicated clearly with advisors, and reinforced operational safeguards within Cumulo Solutions. Each step was deliberate, ensuring that the empowerment she had built was sustained through practical measures and consistent vigilance. Fela understood that closure was not a single event, but an ongoing process requiring awareness, action, and reinforcement. In the evening, Fela met with Tobias to debrief and reflect on the day. Their conversation focused on the balance between emotional support and strategic planning. Tobias provided perspective, encouragement, and insight, reinforcing Fela's clarity and confidence. Together, they reviewed plans for business expansion, philanthropic initiatives, and personal milestones. Their partnership exemplified a dynamic of mutual respect, shared vision, and emotional support, contrasting sharply with past experiences of betrayal and manipulation. Later that night, Fela dedicated time to journaling and reflection. She documented the encounter, her observations, and the lessons reinforced through the interaction. Her writing emphasized empowerment, autonomy, and strategic thinking. Fela stressed the importance of boundary setting, clear communication, and deliberate action as crucial components of personal and professional strength. She also reflected on the emotional journey, acknowledging growth, resilience, and the cultivation of clarity in navigating complex relationships. Fela took time for personal care and mindfulness, recognizing the importance of sustaining emotional and mental well-being. She engaged in meditation and reflection, reinforcing a sense of balance, focus, and resilience. Each practice strengthened her capacity to respond to challenges with composure, strategic insight, and integrity. Fela understood that empowerment encompassed both action and reflection, requiring attention to the full spectrum of personal, professional, and emotional dimensions. The night concluded with a sense of closure and a clear intention. Fela Khumalo had faced the source of past betrayal, articulated her boundaries, and affirmed her autonomy and self-worth. The encounter with Simon Drake was no longer a source of uncertainty or emotional turbulence, but a completed chapter within a larger narrative of empowerment, strategic growth, and personal fulfillment. She felt a profound sense of relief, clarity, and forward momentum. As she prepared for rest, Fela visualized the life she intended to cultivate. She saw Khumalo Solutions expanding ethically and successfully, philanthropic initiatives creating meaningful impact, and her personal life thriving in partnership and mutual respect. She acknowledged that empowerment was an ongoing practice requiring vigilance, clarity, and intentional action. The final confrontation had reinforced her understanding of self-respect, resilience, and the strategic management of interpersonal challenges. Throughout the night, Fela reflected on the lessons embedded in the day. She considered the importance of consistency in boundary enforcement, the necessity of deliberate action, and the value of surrounding oneself with supportive, trustworthy relationships. She recognized that experiences of challenge, reflection, and strategic resolution strengthened personal growth and empowerment. Fela's journey was a testament to resilience, clarity, and the capacity to transform adversity into empowerment. By morning, Fela Khumalo was fully prepared to continue building her life with intention, focus, and confidence. The final confrontation had provided closure, reinforced her autonomy, and demonstrated the power of strategic action and emotional intelligence. Fela understood that her future would be shaped by deliberate choices, ethical leadership, and the integration of empowerment into every aspect of her personal and professional existence. She embraced the day with clarity, resilience, and unwavering commitment to the life she had intentionally created. Fela's final confrontation with Simon Drake marked a turning point, bringing an end to manipulation, betrayal, and uncertainty. It solidified her understanding of empowerment as both an internal state and a set of deliberate actions. The encounter confirmed the importance of maintaining boundaries, asserting authority, and prioritizing personal and professional integrity. Fela's path forward was clear, intentional, and grounded in the principles of respect, resilience, and strategic growth. Fela Khumalo awoke with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. The past few months of confrontation, self-reflection, and deliberate action had shaped her into a woman grounded in resilience, autonomy, and strategic vision. She understood that empowerment was a daily practice that required both attention to detail and intentional decision-making. Today marked the continuation of her journey toward holistic fulfillment, encompassing personal growth, professional expansion, and meaningful relationships. The morning began with a review of Khumalo Solutions. Fela meticulously examined project updates, financial reports, and client communications. She analyzed metrics and identified opportunities for innovation, growth, and improved operational efficiency. Data, experience, and ethical considerations informed every decision she made. Fela recognized that her professional success was inseparable from her personal empowerment, reflecting her values, vision, and strategic capacity. By mid-morning, Fela conducted leadership meetings with her senior team. She emphasized accountability, creativity, and forward thinking. Each department presented proposals to expand services, increase client satisfaction, and develop innovative solutions to ongoing challenges. Fela listened attentively, guiding while encouraging independence and initiative. Her leadership style combined authority with empathy, allowing her team to thrive while reinforcing her position as a decisive and visionary leader. After meetings, Fela dedicated time to mentoring emerging professionals within the company. She shared insights gained from navigating personal and professional challenges, emphasizing the importance of resilience, strategic thinking, and self-respect. The mentoring sessions were mutually enriching, as she drew inspiration from the ambition, creativity, and determination of those she guided. Fela understood that empowerment was not only personal but also relational, cultivated by lifting others while maintaining integrity and focus. In the afternoon, Fela met with Tobias Winters to discuss joint initiatives, investments, and plans. Their partnership was based on trust, mutual respect, and shared ambition. They explored opportunities to expand Kumalo Solutions into new markets, launch philanthropic projects, and support emerging entrepreneurs. Each conversation struck a balance between strategic insight and ethical responsibility. Fela valued Tobias as both a partner and a collaborator, whose perspective enhanced her decision-making and reinforced her confidence. Later, Fela focused on personal development. She engaged in reading, reflection, and skill enhancement. Her studies encompassed a range of topics, including leadership strategies, emotional intelligence, financial literacy, and industry innovations. This commitment to continuous learning strengthened her resilience and prepared her to navigate complex challenges with insight and strategic foresight. Fela recognized that empowerment required intellectual growth alongside emotional and professional development. Fela also devoted time to philanthropic efforts. She expanded her scholarship fund to support young women pursuing careers in business and technology. The initiative reflected her commitment to creating opportunity and fostering empowerment for others facing systemic or personal challenges. Fela believed that true success was measured not only by individual achievement, but by the positive impact she could create in the lives of others. Each decision was guided by intentionality, ethics, and the desire to leave a lasting legacy. Throughout the evening, Fela reviewed long-term strategic goals for Kumalo Solutions. She analyzed market trends, competitor performance, and potential partnerships to inform her strategy. Every plan was evaluated for alignment with her values, potential for growth, and capacity to create meaningful impact. Fela understood that sustained success required foresight, adaptability, and consistency. She approached each decision with both clarity of vision and practical consideration, ensuring that every action reinforced empowerment and progress. Fela also nurtured her personal relationships. She spent quality time with Tobias, discussing shared goals, aspirations, and future projects. Their connection was characterized by transparency, trust, and mutual support. Fela recognized that a healthy partnership strengthened personal and professional fulfillment. She valued the balance between independence and collaboration, understanding that mutual respect and aligned intentions were the foundation of enduring relationships. In the evening, Fela engaged in reflection and journaling. She documented lessons learned, insights gained, and future intentions. This practice reinforced accountability, clarity, and deliberate action. By recording her experiences, Fela maintained perspective and reinforced the principles guiding her empowerment journey. Each reflection strengthened her capacity to navigate challenges, make intentional choices, and maintain balance across personal, professional, and emotional domains. Fela also attended to her well-being. She incorporated exercise, meditation, and mindfulness practices to sustain mental, emotional, and physical resilience. She understood that empowerment was holistic, encompassing self-care, focus, and intentional living. Each routine contributed to her clarity, energy, and capacity to lead, innovate, and inspire. Fela recognized that sustained growth required attention to every aspect of life, integrating personal health, emotional balance, and professional excellence. As night deepened, Fela envisioned the life she was building. She envisioned Kumalo Solutions thriving ethically and successfully, with philanthropic initiatives creating a lasting impact, and her personal life flourishing in partnership and trust. Each vision reinforced her sense of purpose, determination, and empowerment. Fella knew that the foundation she had laid through deliberate action, resilience, and strategic foresight was both stable and dynamic, capable of supporting continued growth and fulfillment. Before resting, Fella reflected on the transformation she had experienced. She acknowledged the challenges of betrayal, confrontation, and rebuilding her life. Each step of the journey had reinforced autonomy, resilience, and strategic insight. She appreciated the growth she had achieved, understanding that empowerment required deliberate practice, vigilance, and intentional choices. Fella felt gratitude for the journey and anticipation for the future she was creating. Throughout the night, her mind considered opportunities for further personal and professional development. She envisioned expanding Kumalo solutions, deepening philanthropic impact, and nurturing meaningful partnerships. Fela recognized that empowerment was a continuous process, cultivated through reflection, action, and alignment with values. She understood that every decision, interaction, and project could reinforce her autonomy, impact, and sense of purpose. By morning, Fela Kumalo was fully prepared to engage with the world with focus, confidence, and clarity. She understood that empowerment required consistency, intentionality, and strategic thinking. Each day offered opportunities to strengthen professional influence, personal fulfillment, and meaningful relationships. Fela embraced challenges as opportunities to demonstrate strength, insight, and resilience while creating a life defined by integrity, purpose, and intentional action. Fela's journey of empowerment and new beginnings exemplified the integration of professional achievement, personal growth, and relational fulfillment. The lessons from past challenges informed every decision, and her deliberate choices reinforced autonomy and clarity. Fela understood that true success was measured not only by accomplishments, but by the capacity to navigate complexity, maintain integrity, and foster growth for oneself and others. Her life had become a testament to resilience, intentional living, and strategic empowerment, and each day reinforced her values, vision, and commitment to holistic success. Fela recognized that the path forward required continued vigilance, reflection, and purposeful action. With clarity, focus, and unwavering determination, she embraced the future she had intentionally designed, confident in her capacity to create lasting impact, fulfillment, and meaningful connections. Fela Kumalo had reached a stage in her life where reflection became a cornerstone of her daily practice. The journey she had undertaken was marked by challenges, triumphs, and deliberate choices that shaped not only her external accomplishments, but also her internal landscape. She understood that personal growth required ongoing introspection, clarity, and conscious effort. Each morning, Fela dedicated time to evaluating her actions, intentions, and emotional state, ensuring that her life remained aligned with her values and long-term vision. The day began with meditation and journaling. Fela focused on gratitude, acknowledging the lessons learned from past experiences and the resilience she had cultivated. She reflected on moments of betrayal, confrontation, and empowerment, recognizing how each had contributed to her growth. Her journaling was precise and intentional, capturing valuable insights, practical strategies, and nuanced emotional awareness. This practice reinforced her understanding that empowerment was both an internal state and a set of deliberate actions aimed at sustaining autonomy, integrity, and personal fulfillment. After her morning reflection, Fela reviewed ongoing projects at Kumalo Solutions. She analyzed reports, assessed progress, and considered strategic initiatives that would expand the company ethically and efficiently. Data, experience, and foresight informed each decision. Fela ensured that her leadership balanced ambition with responsibility, innovation with ethical standards, and growth with sustainability. She understood that personal development and professional success were closely intertwined, and the choices she made in one area had a direct impact on the other. Mid-morning, Fela held a mentoring session with emerging professionals within her organization. She shared insights on resilience, strategic thinking, and navigating complex challenges. The session emphasized the importance of self-awareness, accountability, and ethical decision-making. Fela encouraged participants to reflect on their values, define boundaries, and embrace deliberate action. She recognized that empowerment extended beyond individual achievement, and that fostering growth in others strengthened both community and leadership capacity. Later in the morning, Fela engaged in a review of her philanthropic initiatives. The scholarship fund she had established to support young women in business and technology required attention to ensure sustainability and impact. She assessed applications, connected with mentors, and evaluated outcomes to ensure the initiative continued to align with her vision. Fela recognized that meaningful contributions to the community reinforced her sense of purpose and complemented her personal and professional growth. Each action taken was intentional and reflective of her commitment to empowerment beyond herself. By early afternoon, Fela devoted time to self-care and personal enrichment. She engaged in exercise, meditation, and reading, cultivating physical, emotional, and intellectual well-being. These practices were not indulgent, but essential to sustaining resilience, clarity, and focus. Fela understood that personal growth was holistic, encompassing body, mind, and spirit, and that maintaining balance allowed her to respond effectively to both opportunities and challenges. In the afternoon, Fela reviewed her long-term vision and goals. She considered strategic expansions for Kumalo solutions, potential partnerships, and innovative projects that could enhance impact and growth. Her reflections included evaluating lessons from past challenges, successes, and interpersonal interactions. Fela recognized patterns that had contributed to her empowerment, noting how clarity, boundary setting, and intentional action created a foundation for sustainable success. She applied these insights to plan initiatives that were both ambitious and grounded in her values. Later in the day, Fela spent time with Tobias Winters discussing shared goals, personal growth, and long-term vision. The relationship had evolved into a partnership of mutual respect, support, and aligned purpose. Fela valued Tobias as both a collaborator and confidant, recognizing the importance of relationships that reinforced clarity, empowerment, and strategic thinking. Their conversations were deliberate, focusing on growth, ethical decision-making, and creating a balanced life that integrated professional ambition with personal fulfillment. During the evening, Fela dedicated time to reflection and gratitude. She documented the insights from the day, the lessons learned, and the actions she intended to take to reinforce empowerment and intentional living. Her journaling emphasized accountability, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Fela recognized that each day presented opportunities for growth and learning. That reflection allowed her to capture these moments, strengthen her understanding, and refine her approach to life and leadership. Fela also considered her journey of emotional resilience. She reflected on how past betrayals and challenges had shaped her capacity to trust, assert her boundaries, and prioritize her well-being. She acknowledged the emotional labor involved in confronting difficult situations, the discipline required to maintain composure, and the strategic thinking necessary to navigate interpersonal complexities. Fela recognized that these experiences were not burdens, but essential elements of her development, contributing to a nuanced understanding of empowerment. In the late evening, Fela engaged in planning for upcoming initiatives. She mapped out professional projects, philanthropic efforts, and personal milestones. Each plan was deliberate, integrating lessons from past experiences, current priorities, and long-term aspirations. Fela understood that planning reinforced her autonomy and provided clarity in navigating both anticipated and unforeseen challenges. She approached her life with foresight, mindfulness, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Before retiring for the night, Fela reflected on the totality of her growth. She acknowledged the evolution from a period of uncertainty, betrayal, and reaction to a state of clarity, empowerment, and deliberate action. She appreciated the integration of personal fulfillment, professional achievement, and relational depth. Fela understood that empowerment was a dynamic process requiring vigilance, self-awareness, and intentional choices. Each day offered opportunities to refine skills, reinforce boundaries, and strengthen the foundation for continued success and impact. Throughout the night, Fela's thoughts were focused on maintaining momentum, expanding influence, and sustaining clarity. She envisioned a future where her personal and professional life continued to thrive in alignment with her values. She considered ways to enhance Kumalo Solutions further, extend her philanthropic initiatives, and deepen her leadership and mentorship capabilities. Each reflection reinforced the importance of taking deliberate action, employing strategic thinking, and upholding ethical integrity in sustaining empowerment. By morning, Fela Kumalo was ready to embrace a new day with focus, purpose, and confidence. She understood that personal growth required ongoing attention, reflection, and strategic action. Each decision, interaction, and initiative was an opportunity to reinforce autonomy, clarity, and intentional living. Fela's journey demonstrated that empowerment was cultivated through resilience, mindful reflection, and deliberate choice, creating a life defined by integrity, purpose, and holistic success. Fela recognized that her growth was continuous and multifaceted. Professional achievement, personal fulfillment, and relational depth were mutually reinforcing. She approached each new challenge with strategic awareness and emotional intelligence. Fela understood that empowerment was not a static condition, but an ongoing practice, requiring attention, intentionality, and alignment with core values. Her reflections and actions reinforced the integration of personal, professional, and ethical dimensions into a coherent and resilient life strategy. The experiences Fela navigated, from betrayal to empowerment, provided profound lessons. She understood the importance of clarity in decision-making, consistency in boundary setting, and intentional action in shaping both outcomes and personal development. Her reflections emphasized the cultivation of resilience, strategic insight, and emotional balance as essential components of sustainable empowerment. Fela recognized that each choice she made contributed to a life of purpose, influence, and fulfillment. By the end of the day, Fela Kumalo had reaffirmed her commitment to ongoing growth and empowerment. She recognized that reflection, intentional action, and strategic planning were integral to maintaining autonomy, influence, and well-being. Her journey illustrated the transformative power of resilience, clarity, and deliberate choice in navigating challenges, achieving goals, and creating a meaningful and impactful life. Fela embraced her continued evolution with confidence, focus, and unwavering commitment to living intentionally. Fela Kumalo awoke to a morning filled with light and clarity, and the months of struggle, confrontation, and personal transformation had culminated in a life that reflected resilience, intentionality, and empowerment. Today was not just another day, but a celebration of growth, accomplishment, and the enduring choices that had shaped her journey. She rose with gratitude and focus, recognizing that her past challenges had prepared her for a future of fulfillment and purpose. The day began with quiet reflection and journaling. Fela documented her thoughts on the journey from betrayal to empowerment. She noted the lessons learned, the decisions made, and the strength cultivated through each experience. Her writing was deliberate, capturing the nuances of personal growth, professional achievement, and relational depth. Fela understood that documenting her journey reinforced awareness, clarified values, and served as a guide for sustaining empowerment in all areas of life. After her morning reflection, Fela focused on Kumalo Solutions. The company had grown into a thriving enterprise guided by her vision, integrity, and strategic thinking. She reviewed reports, evaluated projects, and assessed ongoing partnerships. Each initiative was evaluated for alignment with ethical standards, growth potential, and potential for meaningful impact. Fela recognized that her professional success was inseparable from her personal empowerment, and that each decision reinforced the autonomy and clarity she had worked tirelessly to achieve. By mid-morning, Fela conducted leadership meetings with her senior team. She emphasized the importance of collaboration, innovation, and accountability. The team shared updates on projects, market developments, and client relationships. Fela provided guidance while encouraging independence and initiative. She understood that authentic leadership involves striking a balance between authority and mentorship, ensuring that each team member could thrive while contributing to the company's collective vision. These sessions reinforced her role as a strategic, thoughtful, and empowered leader. Later in the morning, Fela dedicated time to philanthropic initiatives. Her scholarship fund for young women pursuing careers in business and technology continued to expand, creating opportunities for empowerment beyond her immediate sphere. Fela reviewed applications, connected with mentors, and evaluated outcomes to ensure that each initiative reflected her commitment to fostering growth, resilience, and opportunity. She understood that impact extended beyond individual achievement, and that creating pathways for others amplified the significance of her own empowerment journey. By early afternoon, Fela met with Tobias Winters to celebrate personal milestones and shared achievements. Their relationship was founded on mutual respect, trust, and a shared vision. Tobias offered insight, encouragement, and perspective as they discussed upcoming initiatives, personal goals, and long-term planning. Their connection exemplified a partnership built on balance, collaboration, and emotional intelligence. Fela appreciated that this partnership strengthened both personal fulfillment and professional capacity, creating a foundation for sustainable success and happiness. The afternoon was devoted to planning a celebration that marked the culmination of months of growth and empowerment. Fela envisioned a gathering that honored both personal achievements and professional milestones. Invitations were sent to close friends, colleagues, and mentors who had supported her journey. Every detail was intentional, reflecting her values, aesthetic preferences, and commitment to meaningful connection. The event was designed not only as a celebration, but also as a reflection of empowerment, resilience, and the deliberate choices that shaped her life. As preparations continued, Fela reflected on the personal transformation she had experienced. She remembered the moments of betrayal, the decisions to reclaim her autonomy, and the deliberate steps she took to establish boundaries. Each experience contributed to a profound understanding of self-respect, strategic action, and emotional resilience. Fela recognized that empowerment was an ongoing practice, cultivated through reflection, action, and intentional living. She appreciated how each challenge had strengthened her capacity to navigate complexity with clarity and confidence. By evening, the celebration commenced. Guests arrived, bringing warmth, encouragement, and admiration for Fela's journey. The atmosphere was filled with energy, connection, and appreciation. Fela engaged with attendees, sharing insights on empowerment, leadership, and resilience. She highlighted the importance of deliberate choice, ethical conduct, and strategic thinking in personal and professional life. The event was a testament to her transformation, demonstrating that empowerment is both achievable and sustainable through deliberate action and a clear purpose. Throughout the celebration, Fela took moments to reflect quietly. She reflected on the trajectory of her journey, the lessons she had learned, and the relationships that had shaped her path. She acknowledged the balance between personal fulfillment and professional success, recognizing that each reinforced the other. Fela understood that empowerment required both introspection and outward action, and the gathering served as a symbolic representation of the integration of these dimensions in her life. As the night progressed, Fela shared stories and insights with those who had supported her. She emphasized the importance of resilience in the face of adversity, the value of setting boundaries, and the necessity of taking deliberate action to achieve meaningful outcomes. Her words resonated with many, inspiring reflection and dialogue about empowerment, personal growth, and leadership. Fela recognized that sharing her experience was not only a celebration of her journey, but also an opportunity to extend influence and inspire others to pursue intentional living. Later in the evening, Fela and Tobias took a quiet moment to reflect on the day and their shared journey. They discussed plans, personal goals, and collaborative initiatives. Their conversation struck a balance between strategic thinking and emotional connection, reinforcing the depth and integrity of their partnership. Fela appreciated the mutual support, trust, and clarity they shared, understanding that a strong collaboration amplified personal empowerment and created a foundation for sustainable growth and fulfillment. As the night drew to a close, Fela returned to a moment of personal reflection. She reflected on the entirety of her journey from betrayal to empowerment, acknowledging the deliberate choices, strategic actions, and internal growth that had led her to this moment. Fela felt a profound sense of accomplishment, clarity, and purpose. She understood that empowerment was not a destination, but a continuous practice requiring vigilance, intentionality, and alignment with core values. Before retiring for the night, Fela documented reflections on the celebration, noting insights gained, lessons reinforced, and intentions for the future. She recognized the significance of celebrating achievements while maintaining focus on ongoing growth and development. Each reflection reinforced the integration of personal, professional, and ethical dimensions, highlighting the holistic nature of empowerment and its enduring impact on her life and the lives of others. Throughout the night, Fela envisioned the path forward. She saw Kumalo solutions expanding responsibly and innovatively, philanthropic initiatives creating lasting impact, and personal relationships thriving in mutual respect and trust. She understood that empowerment required consistent action, strategic planning, and reflection. Fela felt confident that her life was aligned with her values, purpose, and long-term vision, and that each day offered opportunities to sustain and enhance the growth she had achieved. By morning, Fela Kumalo was prepared to embrace the next chapter with focus, clarity, and intentionality. She recognized that empowerment was an ongoing journey requiring vigilance, strategic action, and emotional intelligence. Each decision, interaction, and initiative was an opportunity to reinforce autonomy, influence, and personal fulfillment. Fela understood that her life reflected the power of resilience, deliberate choice, and sustained growth, and she approached the future with unwavering confidence and purpose. Fela's celebration and lasting empowerment marked the culmination of a transformative journey. She had navigated betrayal, asserted autonomy, cultivated professional and personal growth, and established relationships grounded in respect and shared vision. Her life now exemplified the integration of deliberate action, ethical leadership, and intentional living. Fela embraced her continued journey with clarity, focus, and a commitment to empowerment that would endure in every aspect of her life, both personal and professional.